Hey friends, welcome to Beyond Travel. My name is Marcin and today I want to share with you a few ideas for a 4 to 5 days hiking trip to one of the most popular and beautiful Canary Islands, La Palma, also known as La Isla Bonita. A few weeks ago, one of my best friends Jacek and I decided to fly to La Palma for 5 days to explore its famous hiking trails, including the amazing Volcano Trail, Roque de los Muchachos and La Palma's lush green forests. What I want to share in this video are hikes for every level, from easy beginner level hikes that take only an hour to complete to difficult challenging ones spanning over 20 kilometers and requiring a full day of hiking. Make sure you stay until the end to choose the best ones for your trip. And now, let's get started. To start our hiking adventure, we decided to go with an easy to moderate hike close to our part of the island, one that offers a good warm-up for the coming days but doesn't compromise on the island's beauty. And so we chose the La Zarza Park and Forest. And it's absolutely beautiful, I must say, because it reminds me a lot of the Anaga forest in Tenerife, but it's just, I think, a little bit more green and more lush, which is really impressive. This hike takes you through some of La Palma's history as you pass some guanche caves and enjoy views of the northern coast of the Atlantic Ocean. Despite being a popular hike, you get a sensation of being completely alone and can easily stop and listen to the forest beating alive. You start this hike by going down into the forest, which unfortunately means the uphill part is left for your final bit. When we planned this route, we thought to only walk the forest part, but then on the spot decided to extend it to the Don Pedro viewpoint, hoping it would offer some great views of the coast. Eventually it did, but if we were to do this hike again, I think we would have stayed more in the forest to enjoy the lush vegetation there. On our way back, we found the beautiful viewpoint called Mirador de Doña Pola with some really dramatic canyon drops surrounded by the green forest. We spent probably more than a half an hour there, just absorbing the beauty of this amazing landscape. I would rate this hike as between easy and moderate, which was perfect to start the trip, and it took us around 3 hours to complete. If you've done any research on what to hike in La Palma, chances are you've already heard about this hike. The Volcano Trail, known in Spanish as Ruta de los Volcanes, is part of the famous GR131 route, a trail that seeks to connect all the Canary Islands. The part that we are interested in starts at the Refugio El Pilar and goes all the way down to Los Canarios in the south, an almost 18 kilometers stretch taking you through some of the best views on the island. This hike is definitely not to be missed, even if you can't make it all the way to Los Canarios. We decided to make a 15-kilometer loop around the highest volcano on this trail, the Deseada volcano, but you can also do many smaller parts depending on your skills and available time. This hike was definitely the most difficult one we did, because for the most part we were exposed to direct sun walking on soft volcanic sand, so you really get tired quickly. At the same time, this was also probably the most exciting hike we did, with some of the most spectacular views. The first part of this hike, not far outside of the Refugio El Pilar, is already worth coming for as you walk through the beautiful forest vegetation with some occasional views of what's to come. We have been only walking for probably an hour, maybe a little bit less, and the views are already pretty spectacular. And finally you can see a bit of the island from above the clouds, which is really beautiful and impressive. As you progress through the pine forest, you quickly gain elevation. As the trail goes higher, the vegetation becomes sparser, and by roughly 1800 meters there are only a few pine trees left and the volcanic landscape truly opens up. Hiking this part offers some of the most dramatic and unforgettable views you will experience on La Palma. There are quite a few calderas to admire, and on a good day you can see some of the other Canary Islands. Unfortunately, on our day we were only able to see La Gomera, as Tenerife seemed to be hiding behind the infamous Calima. Ooh, what a view! This is I think the highest peak of this hike, and it has a almost 360 panorama view of
the island. I mean, it's just spectacular. The green behind us, the ocean on that side, and on each side here often you get a crater of that kind. I mean, it's very Canary Islands like, of course, but it's really beautiful. Highly recommend it.
After arriving at the Deseada volcano, where we took a small break, we decided to head back, looping our hike around another volcano, El Dulancero. This hike took us 4 hours and 30 minutes and was really challenging and tiring, but also very rewarding. On day 3, we went back to the forest for another easy to moderate hike called
Cubo de la Galga, which is normally 9 kilometers plus, starting I think almost from the beach, but in our case we drove to the info point and decided to hike up from there.
But you can also start it from around the Bajamar de la Galga to make it longer and more challenging. Our main goal for this day was to rest and enjoy, so this time we opted for the easier part. The first part of this hike led us through a not so interesting landscape, going uphill between people's houses and in some parts via a local road.
And right now, after about 2 kilometers, I think we are entering to the forest part.
On our way to this hike's viewpoint called Mirador de Somada Alta. The views from here were completely different from yesterday's volcanoes, and for a second you could almost think we were on a completely different island. However, the best part of this hike starts from the viewpoint back to the parking, as it takes you through the forest and downhill.
From the Mirador, walking the opposite way, you are walking in the forest, and it is like it should be, really beautiful, lots of green, lots of fresh air, lots of beautiful landscape. And I think that is what La Palma is famous for.
You can easily get consumed by the beauty of this forest, when the sun pierces through its dense vegetation, creating many beautiful picture opportunities. And so I highly recommend getting off the trail and going down to the canyon below for a short detour and even more dramatic views.
Finally, we got down to Cubo de la Galga, which is this really cute canyon, water dripping everywhere. I don't think you can hear it, but it really adds to the atmosphere, and I definitely recommend going down here. It's very picturesque, very tranquil, very nice.
After 8 kilometers and 2.5 hours, we called it a day and decided to head back home to enjoy the sunset and get ready for the next day's hike around the Roque de los Muchachos. Day 4 was our final full day on La Palma, so we decided to make the most of it and left the longest hike for that day.
Good morning on day 4, and it's the most intense hike, I think, at least the longest one, roughly 20 kilometers, three peaks. We're starting at Roque de los Muchachos, 2,400 something. Then we're gonna head to Pico de la Cruz, 2,300. And finally, Pico del Nieve, 2,200 and something. It's gonna be a long day. It's 10 o'clock. There is pretty much no one here, which is a good sign.
Roque de los Muchachos is the highest peak of La Palma and home to the Roque de los Muchachos Observatory complex. Once you are here, you have quite a few hikes to choose from, but whatever you choose, I highly recommend doing the super easy Mirador to Mirador 1 kilometer loop for some of the most stunning views of the national park below, and then deciding on another one along the edge of the park depending on your skills and time available.
We started the hike maybe 1.5 kilometers ago, and we're just pretty much all the time walking between the telescopes of La Palma and the national park. The views on a good weather are really spectacular. Constantly you can see La Gomera, El Teide, so Tenerife. It's absolutely breathtaking.
But if you get here like us in May or early June, you have a high chance of enjoying the famous Tachinaste plant blooming, because it only blooms for a few weeks in spring and summer. As we walked along the park, we were lucky to see it in full beauty in many places. The hike from Pico de la Cruz to Pico de la Nieve offers some spectacular views of Tenerife and La Gomera, something we were hoping to see 2 days earlier on our volcano trail, but couldn't due to the Calima. Finally, seeing Pico del Teide from another island was a treat by itself, and I definitely recommend doing that part, if only for the views.
after more than 3 hours of hiking in a kind of peak sun. But what is good is there is a lot of wind here. We are pretty much there.
Getting to Pico della Nieve is a great feeling, but with the clouds below, we felt we'd already seen the best of it, and all we wanted was to
go and make a barbecue. So
this man lives for
the fish
hiking.
is in the fridge.
This man lives for hiking and barbecue.
Yes.
Originally, I expected this to be the hardest hike, but compared to the volcano trail, it was actually easier, even though it was 5 kilometers longer. There wasn't that much altitude difference, and you go up a little, down a little repeatedly, making it more manageable. This hike took us 6.5 hours to complete and 20 kilometers, but honestly, it was an easier hike than the day before, a 15 kilometers through volcanic sands. This was our final day on the island, and since we had a 6 PM flight to Tenerife to catch, we decided to do a simple and easy hike to finish off this amazing trip.
We got to the south side of the national park and we're gonna do a simple hike from the Mirador de la Cumbrecita, a 3 kilometer, 1 hour easy hike just before we head to the airport and make our way back to Tenerife.
On our way here, we were hoping for a better weather, but unfortunately there were lots of lower clouds when we started hiking.
As you can see, we have beautiful weather. You can't see.
Regardless, it was a pleasant short hike to finish off our stay in La Palma. Bear in mind, this is a busy hike with quite a few people on the trail, but it is also the easiest one and takes less than an hour to complete. And there you have it, 5 days, 5 hikes on La Palma, which in my opinion includes some of the best hiking in the whole Canary Islands. Our favorite hike was probably the Volcano Trail, as it was so varied with beautiful vegetation at first and a really spectacular volcanic landscape later. However, I was also very impressed by the forest in Cubo de la Galga and the views from Roque de los Muchachos. I would love to know in the comments which hike was your favorite if you've been to La Palma already. And if you haven't, I hope this video will help you choose some of the hikes for your next trip. Either way, let me know in the comments. Thanks for watching and